Sometimes we look at preachers and we think they are the ones to encourage us. But do they need encouraging also? This morning we're going to be looking at challenges preachers face right here on Labor with Leo.
Get up, wake up my soul in the early morning. Wake up again, it's a new day. Wake up my soul, it's time to fly. Float on the winds and kiss the sky. The birds and flowers were made for you and me. I must be all I can be.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Labor with Leo once again. I'm your man, Leon Lewis, and it's a wonderful day once again outside. I haven't been hearing any rain, early this morning, but the air is fresh and clean. Outside is pretty dry. I don't know if rain fell earlier, but outside looks pretty dry and the place looks pretty really mellow. For those of you going out to work and so on, if you're essential, remember to still walk with a little umbrella just in case. You know how things go. Well, guys, we're out here once again on a beautiful Thursday morning, and we're going to find some encouragement, ladies and gentlemen, from two wonderful young men, because we're going to be talking about challenges preachers face. Yes, even preachers are human beings. I know that may sound like, what? They are human beings? I always used to think that these guys were robots. No, preachers are human beings and they face challenges just like you do, just like we do. And this morning we're going to be hearing a little bit about preachers and the challenges that they face. All right, but this morning, before we go on to that, we got to give a little hail out to our people. You know how these things go. We give a little hail out to our people this morning, and jumping on the chat, we got people like Shirley Alcantara. She is on. We got Astra De Silva, the one with the moves. We got Lindy and Roberts. We got Jack De Lutchman. Uncle Wayne is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Leslie Langine. We got Andrea Bala, Pontiana Bruno, my girl, all the way in the UK. Connie Langine, ladies and gentlemen, Davika Van Lewin. We got Suzette Neptune Fortune, Charmin Boyce, Denison McIntyre, Elizabeth Durity, Julia Robertson, Jenny Leandre. We got Siobhan Clark in the house, ladies and gentlemen. We got, what we got here? We got, Misty Blue in the house, Jennifer Julian in the house. Hey, big up to my girl Indarde Paris and my man Jerry Collado. Big up to you this morning. That's what we're talking about. Suri Bernard in the house. Tero, always on the chat. That's what I'm talking about. Veronica Charles. We got people like Alice Solomon, yeah, guys, just a few names for you. Natasha Critchlow, Ursula De Silva. Big up to every single one of you. Guys, welcome to Labor with Leo once again. It's a wonderful morning and glad that you are able to join us. Yeah, Trade Winds Breeze in the house. I know you love the topic. I know we got to bring this out a little more so that people can be aware of some of those things. All right, well, nonetheless, we're glad that you guys are able to join us this lovely Thursday morning, and we pray that you will be blessed on this show once again. All right, guys, so as we go on, let's sing some songs and let's encourage the hearts of those out there waiting to get the encouragement this morning. All right, let's give a little hail out also to Lady Angela, Janae De Silva. I can't leave out these guys over here. Val Williams, Elizabeth Roberts, Stuart Beulah Tate, Rosamond Robertson, Nicolette Samuel, UNC Lynch. Can't leave you guys out. All right, you mean a lot to Label as well. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So big up to the entire Label crew locked on here on this beautiful Thursday morning. Let's join with some songs. You know how we do. We start by singing some songs, saying thanks to Almighty God, in the way of song, and just giving praise and thanks. We are up this morning, we rise, we are functioning. Some people are in pain, but thank God we're alive, isn't it? Some people are dealing with health issues, but thank God we're alive. But as long as there's life, there's hope. There's a chance that you can be healed. There's a chance that the pain can go away. As long as there's life, there's hope. And so we need to just thank God that we're alive and give praise and thanks for every air, every second we have air going through our nostrils, ladies and gentlemen. So, let's go on. We'll sing some songs this morning and we'll get the blood running through your veins, all right? Let's go. Let's start with this one. In my veins, it's in my veins, in my veins, it's in my veins, while the blood is running warm. In my veins, well, in my veins, come on, in my veins, in my veins, in my veins, it's in my veins, while the blood is running warm. In my veins, well, in my veins, come on guys, in my veins, oh, in my veins, in my veins, it's in my veins, while the blood is running warm. In my veins, well, in my veins, while the blood is running warm. In my veins, well, in my veins. It's in my veins, ladies and gentlemen. Oh boy, the blood is running warm in my veins already. I'm just trying to get you warmed up now. Let's go. Humble thyself in the sight of the Lord. Come on. And humble thyself in the sight of the Lord. And he will lift you up. Oh, and he will lift you up. Come on. My Jesus is the Son of God. Listen. Oh, my Jesus is the Son of God, who died to set men free. Oh, died to set men free. Come on. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Well, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Well, that saved a wretch like me. Why don't you humble yourself in the sight of the Lord? Why don't you humble yourself in the sight of the Lord? And he will lift you up. Oh, and he will lift you up. Sing it. And he will lift you up. Oh, and he will lift you up. All right. Oh, Lord, I give you my heart. Take it and make it your throne. For I am bought with a price, and I'm no longer my own. Sing, I worship you, oh Lord. I worship you, oh Lord. Sing, I worship you, oh Lord. I worship you. Come on. Oh Lord, I give you my heart. Take it and make it your throne. For I am bought with a price, and I'm no longer my own. I worship you, oh Lord. I worship you, oh Lord. Sing, I worship you, oh Lord. I worship you. I worship you, I worship you, oh Lord, I worship you. All right. Still got joy after all the things we've been through. Still got joy, come on, still got joy. Still got joy after all the things we've been through. We still got joy and hope, still got hope. Come on, still got hope after all the things we've been through. Yeah, we still got hope and love, still got love. Come on, still got love after all the things we've been through. Yeah, we still got love. Yeah, all right, let's drop this one. When I went down, let's get a little medley, in the valley to pray. Lord, when I went down, come on, well, in the valley to pray. Well, when I went down in the valley to pray, I was so happy I sang all the way. My sins are taken away, taken away. When I went down, Lord, in the valley to pray. Come on. Oh, when I went down, yeah. Well, in the valley to pray. When I went down in the valley to pray, I was so happy I sang all the way. My sins are taken away, taken away. I'm singing down at the cross where my Savior died, singing down away from cleansing from sin. I cried, well, there to my heart was the blood applied, singing glory to his name. Oh, we're singing glory to his name. Lord, keep singing now, glory to his name. Well, there to my heart was the blood applied, singing glory to his name. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get some more songs on the way now, man. God has, sing it now, smiled on me. I know he has set me free. Come on, keep singing. God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. I know you're probably feeling sad, but listen, God has smiled on you. He has set you free. Singing, God has smiled on me, and he's been good to me. The dark clouds, it rolled away, and sunshine down on me. Come on, keep singing. Dark clouds rolled away, and sunshine now on me. So sing it again. God has, he has smiled on me. I know he has set me free. Singing, God has smiled on me. He's been good to me, and he's been good to me. Amen, amen, amen. Let me just take a little sip here. You know, I need a little something like that every now and again. All right, let's go. I will enter his gates with thanksgiving in my heart. I will enter his courts with praise. Come on. I will say this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. Oh, I will enter his gates with thanksgiving in my heart. I will enter his courts with praise. I will say this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. Sing, he has made me glad. Oh, he has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. He has made me glad. Oh, he has made me glad. Now I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. I will enter his gates with thanksgiving in my heart. I will enter his courts with praise. I will say this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. Sing, he has made me glad. Oh, he has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. He has made me glad. Oh, he has made me glad. Now I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. Well, he has made me glad. Oh, he has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. He has made me. You're feeling glad this morning? He has made me glad. Now I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. Amen, amen, amen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting ready to bring on, our guests this morning, guys. You know how it go. We got two beautiful young men to present to you this morning. One, they will be introducing themselves and talking a little bit about themselves in just a moment. I don't want to bust the bubble, but I just want you to know that both of them, once again, unfortunately, they are taken, just in case you hunters out there. I want you to know that in this case, the hunt is over, ladies and gentlemen. So when you look at them, all you have to see now is Bible. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the hunt is over. They are taken, but they will be coming to present something to us, something that I think we need to hear out there. All right, and that is challenges preachers face. Ladies and gentlemen, preachers are faced with challenges out there, and we're going to be hearing a little bit about that from two preachers in two different islands. They are preaching two different islands, two different congregations, two different cultures. We're going to be hearing the challenges that these men are going through. All right, so let's just give a little 2 minutes to our second guest here. And as soon as he is ready, we'll be right. I think we're ready here. As soon as he is ready, we'll be on the way. We'll sing one more song in preparation, and then we'll be introducing them to you this morning in just a few minutes. All right, so let's go. Let's sing one more, and as soon as things are ready, we'll get things going. All right. All day long of Jesus I am singing, He my song of joy will ever be. All the while He keeps my heart bells ringing, for His love is everything to me. You know He's my King, and oh I dearly love Him. He's my King, no other is above Him. All day long, enraptured praise I sing. You know He's my Savior, He's my King. Come on, and you know He's my King, and oh I dearly love Him, and He's my King. No other is above Him. All day long, enraptured praise I sing. You know He's my Savior, He's my King. That's what we're talking about. That is exactly what we're talking about. Well, let's get this thing going. I know we got to go. We got to pump. I know you're ready to hear this discussion. We're going to be starting. And, I really hope that you're ready to take notes. Take notes, because some of the things that preachers go through sometimes, we are not even aware of it. We are not even aware of the challenges that these men are faced with on a day-to-day basis. All right, so we're going to be chatting with them right about now, and I hope you guys would sit back, relax, enjoy this session. We'll be having a little time for you to call in. You can call in and make your remarks, ask your questions. There will be time for that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so at this point in time, let's go on, and we'll be introducing at this time the first man, Dillion Bellot, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from St. Lucia. I'm not saying that is where he's from, but that is where he is. All the way from St. Lucia, we want to say welcome to our boy, Dillion Bellot. Dillion, how you doing this morning, bro? Just make sure you're not muted there.
I think I am. I was.
All right.
Good morning. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning,
bro. Good morning to the Label family. Good to be on, brother.
Lovely. How you feeling this morning, my man?
A bit strange, actually. We wake up to the Label in the morning, and so this morning I feel like I'm depriving my family because it's not the same experience.
Right.
I'm here sharing with you, and they're not able to put on the television or the computer and follow along. So, but other than that, we're good. Happy to be on, brother.
They could use headphones if they have. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry about that. That's
all right, brother. They'll watch the replay.
Yeah, all right. Well, bro, it's really a pleasure to have you on. Could you tell the people a little bit about yourself? Where you work, where you're from. Tell them a little bit. I know it's not your first time here, but give them a little bit about you.
Okay, so my name, as Leo said, is Dillion Bellot. I am Dominican. That's from the island of Dominica, not the Dominican Republic. I am a graduate of the Trinidad School of Teaching and Preaching, class of 2003. So that means I've been in ministry. I preached my first sermon at 19. I've been in ministry for about almost 20 years now. Been married for 15 years. We have 3 kids together. The oldest 11, and the youngest 5. What else is there? I ministered previously in my home congregation in Dominica, Scottish Church of Christ, for the past 15 years, and currently, for the past couple of years, I've been living and ministering in St. Lucia with the Grozile Church of Christ. And so that's where I am presently.
All right. Well, we want to get straight into it, and when our second guest is ready, he will join us. It should be anytime now. All right, but and there he is. All right. Good morning to you, Wendell Parris, my man.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning, my bro?
Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
All right, that's good. Good morning, Brother Dillion. How are you?
I'm fine, Brother Wendell. Good morning to you, man. Good to see you.
Yes, likewise. It's good to see you indeed. And as Brother Leon said, this is a different setting to which when invited to label, the case is different in what I present. But I'm glad to be here with Brother Dillion because of the mere fact that I think we really do share some similar things as preachers, as the case may be.
Amen. All right, well, let's get straight into it. Could you guys, we'll start with you, Dillion. Could you tell the people a little bit about your experience, where you've worked as a preacher, how long you've been working as a preacher? Tell people a little bit about your experience.
Okay, well, I was hoping you started Brother Wendell. He has seniority. And I always try to respect that. Like I said, for me, it was my home congregation that I started working with. I mean, I was raised in that congregation from a tender age, and when I went to school, it was with the intention that I would gain the knowledge to to help that congregation, give back to that congregation, and which I did. But in general, the challenges that preachers face, though it may vary, there are some challenges that are just the same across the board, similar experiences. And then there are challenges that are of a very personal nature, because it varies based on the individual, the personalities and so on, and also the congregational, the dynamics of that congregation and what it brings. For me, I could say I had a relatively, I wouldn't say easy, but because I was known there, and I know the brethren, it was kind of easy goings for me compared to what some other preachers may have had to go through. Yeah, there are a lot more to be said on that, brother, but I guess that's introduction. So I'm going to let brother Wendell share his.
Brother Wendell, also known as the Apostle Paul, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and the experience that you had in preaching?
I am humbled by this statement, but I'm nowhere close to the Apostle Paul. But I will say this as an introductory as well. I saw myself when I was 6 years of age. My mom would carry me to the Roman Catholic Church, and I would sit in the pews and I would look at this man, this tall man with a cone-shaped thing on his head and a white gown, and he was serving and reading from this big book called the Bible, and I looked at that individual and I said in myself at 6 years of age, I want to be like him.
Wow.
No, I didn't understand doctrine, I didn't understand denominationalism, nothing of the sort. I just saw an individual serving a people, reading from this book called the Bible, and I said, I want to be like him.
Right.
And so from there, I started moving on, joined the communion classes, and looking towards being an acolyte and all of these things. And then about 3 or 4 sisters had knocked on my door and they introduced to me the gospel. And when I heard the gospel of Christ, it turned my whole life around. And it helped me to understand through the beginning trials of my life, similar to Joseph, I would say, to realize that, hey, this is something that you need to pursue even more.
Right.
So I did become a Christian in the year 1987. And from 89 to 91, I was in the Trinidad School of Preaching.
Right.
Like Dillion, he said he started off preaching at 19. Well, I started off a little older than that, but in the year 1990, I preached my first sermon. That's while I was in school in the congregation at Moruga. I can remember that distinctly. So from 89 to 91, was graduated from the Trinidad School of Preaching. 92, I got married after staying single for a year, working with the congregation at Saparia. And I got married in 1992 to the lovely Sister Indra. As you know, as Sister Wendell Parris. I worked at Saparia between 1990 to present time. I'll just give you the short history. I worked with the congregation at Saparia, where you are right now, Brother Leo.
Yeah.
I worked with the congregation at Faizabad, the congregation at Mason Hall, Tobago, Dow Village back in Trinidad, a little bit with Lebre. I worked part-time in that I started working taxi and doing the work part-time as well in Lebre, and then presently to Laramine from since 2006 till now, And within that time, from 94 to 2021, I would have had 3 children, Keturah, Rebecca, Nathaniel, and now 3 grandchildren, Hosea, Isaiah, and Catalia. So they are a blessing as a result of many things that happened during that time. But as I said, I'll say more as we go along.
Right. And no people would understand why I'm calling you the Apostle Paul, right? You say don't, you're nowhere close to him, and that is, you're right to say that. But
the Apostle Paul was not married, eh?
Yeah. I'm just looking at the idea that you've been hitting here, there, everywhere. You've been working all over Trinidad and Tobago, and it's something that I
Yes.
appreciate because you would get a unique experience, from working with various congregation. So the experience you have will be different to a man who worked with one congregation his whole life. So I appreciate people like you who have been helping different congregations. But as we go on to this, Dillion, why we heard a little bit about Wendell, looking at, these priests and saying, you want to be like that. Why did you become a preacher?
Yeah, well, unlike Wendell, I never had any intentions of becoming a preacher. I never had any dreams. I never thought that I would ever be a preacher, as a matter of fact. Everybody who knew me back then very much surprised that I am actually a preacher now.
Right.
Those who know me from high school and before that, because it wasn't something I've ever even dreamt of. But when I finally became a Christian, somewhere around the age of 18 or 19, I, of course, got to know God, and my life changed for the better. And in growing, I realized that the congregation that I was a part of, there was a need for the men, for more capable men.
Right.
The preacher at the time was actually planning to leave, and he asked me if I was interested in going to study and learning more about God. To be honest, I took it as an escape, because as a young Christian, I was struggling in my community. I was struggling in my personal life.
Right.
And I thought to myself, you know what better place to be for growth than to be where the word of God is being taught. And I benefit. It's a win-win situation. And so I took up the task. But I well knew that at the back of my head that I might be of benefit to my congregation.
Right.
So as it turned out that I was of benefit to the congregation, the knowledge that I acquired. And so going back, I committed myself to the task and to the work. I'm the type of individual that if I can do it, I will do it. If I have the ability within me to do something for the Lord, I'm going to do it. I don't feel comfortable sitting back and knowing that I am capable and leaving it undone or just someone else doing it. I think God blessed us with talents, and we are to be willing to use whatever talents and abilities we have for the purpose and for the glory of God. And so based on these things, I am a preacher now. So it's pretty much that.
Wow. And I know with this question here, it would vary because of the fact that you guys have different experiences. But Brother Wendell, if I could start with you, what is one, or you can give us a couple if you like, of the toughest times that you ever faced as a preacher?
There's not one, there's many.
Wow.
Well, if it was to start off, like when I started working, preaching, number one, it has a lot to do with you dedicating yourself to working for the Lord, no matter the conditions. Because when I left school, I was on fire. When I tell you on fire, I wasn't thinking about anything else but just preaching the word of God and sharing the knowledge that I have and just diving into it. But I believe the Lord helped me to understand that there are more things than just standing up and preaching the word. And over the years, I've learned that there are a lot of things that really are involved in that decision that you would have made. I never would have thought that being a preacher would entail so many different things, because all I saw was this man with a Bible in front there teaching from it, and that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So in my life, I would have shut down a lot of things. I would turn a blind eye against many things in regards to how to prepare yourself financially, how to do certain things to grow in that family life setting, because all I wanted to do was just preach the gospel.
Right.
All right. And that was my zeal, that was my fire. But there were a lot of issues. And I came to realize that those issues as we go along. And one of the things was that in working with a congregation, with a people, sometimes you don't have all the resources that are necessary for a preacher. One of them being a vehicle. Some people might say, well, I have done this job without a vehicle for so long. But sometimes, especially in this day and age, you need a transport. You need a vehicle to move around.
Right. Yeah.
I could remember walking for miles just to go on Bible studies.
Wow.
And one experience that I had is that this person at that time in Sapara didn't have a phone. They didn't have no kind of communication like that. And you had to walk to miles. And when you walk to miles just to reach by their house and you knock on their door only to find out they're not home. And you made arrangement before them that, hey, you're going to come at a certain time. So all of these things we face. People don't realize what we do. Similar to you meet and somebody might say different issues with people outside there. You had men chasing you with cutlass because they don't want you to come bring the gospel to their yard. You have all kinds of things. I'm thankful that I didn't face somebody with a gun.
Right.
But you find yourself in all kinds of situations trying to spread the gospel to people who may want to hear it and people who may not want to hear it. But at the same time, you are putting your life in danger. Now, this is similar to the work of the apostles. When they go out, Jesus told them, hey, this is a work, this is a ministry in which is a matter of life and death in some cases, and you have to do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And so some people don't realize that we put ourselves at risk outside there. The only job in this world, the only work, the only responsibility that really pushes an individual to that limit as an individual looking at his relationship with God and how he interacts with people is the work of a minister. And people don't realize that that work in itself, it is so demanding yet joyful. It is so tedious yet rewarding. And you can never really put down your handle and say, well, you know, but as a result of preaching, you're going to be made rich.
Right.
That is never the case at all. And it may happen in the denominational world, you know, but it does not happen among the people of God. That the intent when you go into preaching, I want to be rich, I want to be wealthy. Finance was never on my mind when it comes to preaching the gospel. And that is one of the areas of my downfall, in that I just looked at doing the work, but not preparing yourself financially to be able to have a more stable life in those particular areas.
Right.
And those are things that we learn as we go along. All right. Financial challenges, which is so evident that preachers do suffer from time to time. I wouldn't disclose how we start off, because Dylan could give you the same thing. You know, how you start off financially is not how other people in the world may have started off in terms of doing a work like this. So some of the resources you don't have. You don't have the financial resources. Some maybe don't have the transportation required. And if you're moving from place to place, like what I did with 5 congregations until we reached Laramie, which is 6, you have to take up your children and you move. So sometimes the children, when you have them down in one school and you have to move now to a different location, you have to change from that school to the next school. And it's a whole lot of things that preachers who live normal lives do things like everybody else. But sometimes people look at preachers as if they are infallible.
Right.
You know, they are people who don't make mistakes.
Right.
People who don't have problems. People who don't have issues. Well, they do. It's a real thing. They do. But we have just become a more public spectacle to the people in the world than just the average person.
Wow.
And sometimes I like to look at it as the president of the United States. Once the president of the United States is the one responsible for the entire country, the entire states, his whole family is under scrutiny.
Right.
The daughters have to be careful what they do, because you will always have that, what you call the paparazzi, waiting for you. And so as a preacher, it's the same thing. You have people looking at not only the preacher, but the preacher's family, because there's an expectation that they are supposed to be of a certain order, a certain way. And when they are not, the people who really get more condemnation, you'd realize, would be the preacher's families, because they're expected to be a certain way.
Right.
And if you're a certain way and you lead in the flock, then hey, you must be of a mere perfection. But that's not the case. So these are some of the issues that preachers go through, but also preachers' family, preachers' wives, preachers' children, they go through that thing. And then when I look back, I ask myself the question, if I had another choice in a career opportunity,
Right.
after seeing what your family go through and after resolving all of these issues, would you have changed your profession or would you have done the same thing? And my answer would be this. Because I found a wife who was able to support me in this ministerial work, I would have chosen the same thing. Because you have a wife that supports you in this work. If she was not supportive in this work, that's a different story. But you have somebody who could support you, and that's the reason why the issues that we face, the challenges that we face, if you don't have that support from your wife, then it becomes much more difficult, much more harder.
Wow.
All right. So I'll just stop you for a while because I said there's a lot to say, but I'll stop for a while because Brother Dillion has a lot to say as well.
Yeah, let's hear from Dillion. Of some of the the toughest times that he experienced as a preacher.
As Brother Wendell said, there's no real one time I could think of.
Right.
Because and let me tell you why. If we are as preachers to hold on to experiences, especially negative experiences, most of us will quit before we go far. So it's not worth holding on to bad experiences. I personally am good at forgetting things.
Right.
I deliberately forget things so I could move on and press on in the work I have to do. But it is generally an area where there is a lot of struggles. Like I said, personal of nature. Brother Wendell mentioned so many areas where preachers struggle with. I want to touch on something Brother Wendell said when he says, if I had a choice of a career, and I know what he's saying, and I want to say that the choice of word is because of the limited choices we have when he says career, because not many preachers, or if any that I'm aware of, really go into preaching as a career. It is something that we do out of love for God and out of love for the people of God. But it is and becomes a career, and one that you are stuck with. Okay, because the expectation is for full-time involvement in ministry. And so it is a career, but not necessarily one we choose as in the sense of, well, I want to go into preaching because there is a lot of money, or, as you normally would pick a career. Because the reality, as Brother Wendell say, financial problem is one of the serious challenges that preachers in the Church of Christ face, because it's real. When I started off ministry, there was no finance heading my way. I remember $300 stipend.
Wow.
And that was it, brother. And you expect it as long as the congregation know that you're the minister. It doesn't matter if they're giving you $200, $500. They expect you to do everything. Make it work, basically. You become this superhuman being and all-capable person. And it's a challenge. Everything, man, it's just so much, Leo. But you have to do what you have to do, and you do it because for God and for the people of God. But in my case, the brethren from Trinidad, I was supported for quite a few years with the brethren from Trinidad under the WE program. And I'm eternally grateful for that program. It's one of the few, only one I could think of in the Caribbean. So the fortunate few that get supported get assistance from these brethren. What about, there are so many others who are not assisted financially. And even with that, being supported from these brethren, on my part, it's just enough to get by, to ensure that the family does not starve in that regard. And that's what it is. And so this is just the financial aspect of it. And then I want to touch on the general overwhelming feelings that preachers have. Right. That can lead to despair. Having the responsibility and the care of a congregation, of a people, to be responsible for the souls of men. It comes with a weight that cannot be explained. It's natural, mind you. Nobody has to place it on you. If you are a preacher, if you're a man who loves God and wants to do right by God, with God and the people of God, you have this natural weight of, listen, I must get it right. I've got to preach it right. I've got to live it right. I've got to get the family right. There's little room for error. in the eyes of the congregation and in the eyes of the public, because you represent something that is greater than yourself. And that in itself alone, if that was the only issue, it would be enough for any man to deal with. But it's not the only issues, you know. There's so much more. And we have very little people. There's very few places that preachers can turn to. If you could think of the superheroes that we see on television, Superman, Batman, you know, the Wonder Woman, who do these people turn to when they need counseling? If they need counseling, who do they turn to if they need to cry? Do you see Batman cry? Is it okay for Superman to feel sad about himself? You know, when he has family problems, and because preachers are looked at such a way, placed it to such a high pedestal at times, both by the members and the community, then they are almost in that category where there's when you don't have many places to turn to, many shoulders to lean upon. The issues that you face, you're in solitude, you're isolated, you have to do it within your own bubble. Brother Wendell mentioned the lack of resources, the congregational demands is another area where that's challenging, because people expect to give you a cup of flour, and with that cup of flour, you're supposed to bake a cake, you're supposed to make Johnny cake, you're supposed to make bread. So much is expected, you know, and the pressure can really build up. And there are many issues that preachers face, being burnout, other health problems. It's quite a lot, Leo. The time that we have will not allow us to go into details of the things. You know? And then there's the general misconception and expectation of people that plays a part in the mind of preachers. And so I'm going to turn back to Brother Wendell. Perhaps to any other question that you may have, brother.
I wanna talk about something, because, you know, Brother Wendell mentioned it, you know, about the support system financially, and you mentioned it as well. And $300, wow. You know, when we think about it, I know I saw somebody saying, you know, they wanted, somebody on the chat was saying they wanted to go into ministry full time, but they had two children, you know, and the money wasn't able to take care of their family, so they just couldn't do it. They wanted to do it, but they couldn't do it. You know, what is the issue? Because we're looking at other churches, if I could put it like that, other churches in the world. We're looking at how they pay their priests, their pastors, their preachers, and they don't seem to complain. You know, so what is the real issue with the church that we're a part of? What is the real issue? Why are preachers struggling when we look out there and others seem? Because if you tell somebody you're a preacher, Dillion, you might be struggling, but people watching like, hey, you making real money, boy, you're a preacher.
Yes, sir.
You know, so what is
That's
the
true.
issue? What is the issue? Why are we not able, if I just leave it like that, why are we not able to support our preachers as well as other churches in the world do? Why are we not able to do that? What is the real issue? Any one of you.
Well, if we knew the problem, the sole problem for that, then that wouldn't be an issue, you know. That we would have the solution then. So it's a hard one to pinpoint, because for one, we follow scriptural pattern, New Testament Christianity, where the Church of Christ is concerned, and so we don't practice a tithing. And most of the churches that we can compare financial comparison to, they practice tithing, and these people they know how much to expect at the end of the month. They preach on these things sometimes consistently, and there's nothing else but that being preached. A lot of churches exist simply to make money. Let's be honest about it. A lot of preachers preach just to make money. A lot of churches are established for the purpose of making merchandise out of the people of God.
But let me just come in here. But right, we know there are a lot of churches, you know, they treat it like a business, but there are churches that they preach other things. They preach other things from the scripture, loving people, they preach other things, but yet still they are supported well. So other than the
Yes.
fact that those who preach, for the money, they preach the prosperity gospel and all that kind of stuff. There are churches who preach other stuff. They operate like, like we do. They operate like we do. And even though, as you say, the Church of Christ doesn't practice tithing and all that kind of stuff, even if we don't practice tithing in the church, you can't tell me people can't set aside their monies at home, to do that, to support the good work. Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying, Dillion?
Yes, you're very right. It can boil down to, well, three things in my mind: commitment, love, and faith, or a lack of faith.
Right.
A lack of commitment, a lack of faith, and a lack of love. On as far as the membership is concerned. Now, let me just let you know, Brother Leo, that you're asking the preachers publicly to talk on an issue that's very sensitive to a lot of persons. So you're putting us on a spot.
I love that.
And we don't want members to be angry with us if we have to say everything that we really think that's going on.
No, but
and that's sort of what you're asking of us as preachers.
Let me tell you.
Let me say this, Leo. There's a commitment issue. Our members may not be as committed as they should to the church, to the work of God. We are members one of another. We belong to the body, and we are supposed to take care of the body. The affairs of the church, the responsibility lies on the members, and not enough members are taking that seriously. I mean, we can be committed to Netflix subscription. We can be committed to Amazon subscription yearly, and so many things like that. But how many members are committed to that, to giving to the congregation on a regular basis? Things like the We program, where people can give in on regularly, or commit. Let's say, let's put aside this amount of money. We just not committed in the area of giving as we should be. There is the tendency and the possibility for us to be able to give more than even those who tithe, because we give free will, and that's where love comes up. Because a lack of love, or love would demand that if we love God, we give to God, because God gives to us first. If we love God and we love the saints, we love the church, then we give to take care of it. And faith as well. If we have faith in God, then we give in faith, knowing that God will always provide our needs. So, but these are issues that preachers by themselves cannot solve, and often are the ones who are trying to solve it. And so,
let me add my two.
The general membership. Go ahead, Brother Wendell.
I really appreciate what you said there, Brother Dillion. And in my earlier statement, I mentioned this. I said, when I started off this ministry, in my mind, it was never about finance. It was actually just about doing the will of God and not having to think ahead as to how could I better be stable financially. So you find as preachers, and I don't know who else fall in this category, that the banks will smile with us because we are always seeking to get a loan to cover the areas where we are falling short. Now, to say whether or not the members understand this great important task, or whether the preacher himself understands the things that he needs to do, I could also recall that in starting off this ministry, the funds were not all that exorbitant, it was minimal. And I never raised a voice. And the reason why I said that is because I was chastised for not preaching about money. They say, hey, use the preacher, you need to preach about money, you need to preach about members having to give, and I was chastised for that. But it went against some of the things that I had in my mind when it comes to that. I believe that the congregation at that time are supposed to understand that you have a man, and this time he has a wife, and now over the years he has a family, and you realize that the same amount of support you give a man who is single, you can give a man who has a family.
That's right.
It's understandable that as the congregation also grows, they would grow in the understanding, hey, this is a man that needs to be supported. He has a family. Let's just move from this level to that level. One of the things I appreciate with the congregation at La Romaine is that they're very conscious of of the preacher and what he does. They're very conscious about the areas of finances and how things happen within the world. So they do make a valiant effort to make sure that the preacher is taken care of in this regards. Now, I will go so far as to say, well, I could give you a figure. I say, well, listen, a preacher really should be supported with this amount. But then in my own humbleness, I still say to myself, listen, I do the work because I love to do what I do. And if those who see me doing what I do and understand my passion for it, then you'll be able to say, all right, this is worthy of such a support. So sometimes members don't understand. And I'm glad for this topic, because sometimes members don't understand what preachers actually go through to do that. Now, you may hear members saying, boy, things low in the house. I don't have this, I don't have that. Guess what? It happens to preachers too. We run low. We sometimes don't have. I can remember my wife, who she loved the yard thing better than me. And when we run low, you could always get green fig in the back. You could always get a hana moko. And all of these things that we will be eating, sometimes we just eating quicks and something.
Right.
And you think that when you look at the preacher's house, is probably his caviar and you have all of this. No, it's a very basic thing. The very basic things, right? Sometimes with the children, the milk run out because milk was expensive for babies and all of these things. You have to find ways to do what you have to do. And so it's not as easy as people think.
Yeah.
So when you look at the preacher and he's driving this car, well, oh gosh, he's driving this car, now he must have all of these things or whatever. No, people don't realize sometimes, and this is going to shock some people, that sometimes I have to park up the vehicle just to save gas to do something more important.
Wow.
Because of the fact that these things do happen, these things do run out, all right? And therefore, when you go through all of these issues, I think Brother Dillion touched on something. I just want to come there and then come back, is that a preacher spends a whole lot of hours and sometimes weeks according to what he is preparing in terms of a sermon, in terms of Bible class lessons. He burns the midnight oil. So sometimes when people are sleeping, he's up.
Right.
And he's studying, he's doing what he can to present sometimes a 40 minutes lesson, a 30 minutes lesson. And after you present a message, somebody will come and tell you, boy, you take too long, or you didn't use the right pronunciation of this particular verse. And that's what they come with. But they don't know the long hours you took to study. They don't know sometimes the mosquito biting you, all sucking your blood, everything in the night. And they don't realize the sacrifices preachers make to bring even a message. Because you don't want to come and do, a brother call it, you don't want to present what you call a half-baked duck sermon, right? You have to be able to get into the lessons while you're looking at the congregation and you're trying to find out what do they need, not what they want.
Exactly.
What they need to hear, what they need to help them in their lives. Because preachers not supposed to be pleasing any audience. We are not men pleasers. We are here to please God. And so when you go to that extent, permit me to just say, that's where the health issue comes in. That's where preachers suffer from things like ulcerated stomach. They don't eat on time. That's why preachers go through stomach problems. And Paul told that to Timothy, hey, use a little wine for your often infirmities sake. But we understand that the sacrifices we make, some people will not make those sacrifices.
Yeah.
Some people don't know. Right? Sometimes you are not well, but try to prepare yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually. Because here what? Preachers have personal issues that nobody knows about. Personal struggles that nobody knows about. Right? Because while everybody's supposed to work on their lives, whether the wife, whether the children, whether the members, preachers have their personal issues and personal struggles. So while we're trying to serve and while we're trying to help others, there are issues that we need to deal with ourselves. And that's why I often tell people I like to go to San Fernando Hill. That's my place. That's my place of solace, my place of peace to talk with God. And in case people don't realize, I cry. Tears will come to you when you sit down and you think about what you do, how you do it. And most of the times, Brother Dillion will attest to this, most of the time, it's not what you're doing to please men. I cry sometimes when I don't do something that I'm supposed to do that is pleasing to God, because I say, God, I know you're disappointed in me, you know. I should have done this better. I should have worked harder at this. I should have done this. Those are the things that preachers have to go through. I will never forget James chapter 3, verse number 1. My brethren, be not many masters, be not many teachers, be not many instructors, know that you shall receive the greater condemnation. If people realize that those who grace the pulpit and the ministry which they're involved in, that they are held at a greater responsibility before God, then hey, what we do, you realize now, hey, this man, you need to really help this brother in what he does.
Yeah.
Help him. Don't just fight against him, but help him. Help him with the resources. Help him to get the things that he needs. Help him to realize that he can move from point A to point B. One of the greatest things that I often look at in this entire world of Christendom and how preachers function and operate, and this is my prayer to God. Let everybody know, God, take care of my family in whatever way that you can. Just take care of my family, and I would further dedicate myself to you. Along my family is taken care of. Wow, beautiful, nice. I will just dedicate myself to you. So I'll go back in the days of Hannah, where she says, listen, I'm going to give my son to the temple and let me spend all the rest of the years in the temple. And that is what preachers love to do. They just want to be able to comfortably, amidst all the challenges, serve God, help the people, do all that they can. Doesn't matter. We go through trials, doesn't matter. We go through afflictions, yeah, we could do that. But just work with us, help us along the way, and be patient too, because as I said, we are not gods. And we are there to help the best that we can, even though we have serious health issues.
Well,
and you know what happens when we have health issues? That is an area that sometimes people condemn you for. Boy, it's your fault. You should eat on time.
Right.
You should do this. You should do that. But they don't know that when we do certain things, how it adds to their benefit, how it brings joy to them when we experience the sorrow.
You know what?
And somebody might want to blame preachers for these things, but yeah, what? You can't blame preachers for things that you don't know. You got to understand that this life that we are called to serve in, which we do love, by the way, is not something that you could look at lightly. Because I often remember what Jesus said to the apostles. The mission that you're on is a mission to death. It's not a mission that brings anything else but death. And the apostles knew that. So therefore, any preacher, and by the way, let me just say this one time.
Hold on. Before you go into that, let me because I want to hear a lot from from you guys about the emotional challenges that you guys have to deal with. I want to hear a lot from that. But before you continue on that, I wanted to strike something before we leave from that whole train of thought, right? Because
Yes.
Because Dillion mentioned about the whole idea of finances being a sensitive topic. I think is not sensitive, but I think is necessary, because your son may grow up, Dillion, and may want to follow in daddy's footsteps, may want to be a gospel preacher, and he may want to get into the work full time, and we have to now sort things out today so that the younger ones can have the opportunity to get into the work tomorrow and have their families taken care of. So this is a topic that we have to talk about, and we have to let people in the church know, hey, it is time to step up and support your preachers. This is the greatest work ever. You see, everything else you do, you would be the best electrician and you would go with nothing to heaven. But the work of a preacher, winning souls, that's the only thing that would follow you. The way you help people, that's the only thing that would follow you after you die. That work. So that is the greatest work on the face of the earth, and we have to talk to people about money when it comes to taking care of their preachers. So I'm the type of guy, Dillion, I would get into a talk whether it would affect my money or not, because I believe in getting things right and sorting things out where it needs sorting out, So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit before we move on, because I really want to hear from you guys concerning the health aspect of things, but I just wanted us to know that whether things are sensitive or not, sometimes we have to just dive in that area and get things done, because it is not for me to get more money, it's not for you to get more money, it's for the generations to come to be able to be supported if they want to get into the work. Don't you know that there are people now willing to get into the work full time? There are young people that want to get into the work full time, but they don't have the support, the means, they don't have the means to get into it, and they want to get married, they want to support their children or two, but it's just not working out because of the level of finances that is being offered to these young people. So it's something that I believe we had to talk about.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Leo. I believe you're right on that, in that regard. But it's still difficult in the sense for preachers. For example, let me just share that with you. I told you I've been in ministry for 20 years. I have never owned a vehicle during that period of time. I've never owned a vehicle. I've never been in the financial position where I can buy a vehicle, even if it's a used vehicle, to help me do the work. We live in the world that is dominated by the denominational world, where finance is a big issue. People are being taken advantage of. Preachers are preaching for money. There's a great love of money going on, and regardless of what we know we are and what the Church of Christ is, we cannot get out of that spotlight. When people think of preachers, they think of that. When they think of Brother Wendell, that's the image that comes to mind. But that's not us. But yet still we are being overshadowed by that. Right. And so it becomes a topic that, that's why I said it's a very sensitive issue. It becomes a topic that is even embarrassing to want to speak, to the point where you might be embarrassed. I feel embarrassed wanting to bring up finance. Why should I have to bring up finance to a congregation, to a people of God? Why? You should know money makes the world go wrong, as the saying goes. Everything is money. But for somehow, so there's a misconception. There's need for education. And I don't think preachers are the best people to bring it forth, because we are the ones that have been supported. Right. So people are saying, hey, you're singing for your supper, you want more money? Even if we deserve or need more money, you want more money? And they look at you, how do you overcome that? Right. Yeah. But you're right, there is a need for it. And it has to be done. I'm just not entirely sure if I'm the one, as the preacher, who should be doing it to the people that's supposed to be supporting me, because it may get the reverse effect, where people, you know what? I'm not giving because of that. Human beings are so funny. Human beings are weird. But let me just throw this in there, because we're dealing with finance. We haven't even, one of the bigger concerns that preachers have, I know I have that concern, is what happens when I'm done preaching? After 60 years, 70 years, and I've preached all that I can. Right. Then what? There's no retirement plan.
Come on.
When I stop preaching, that's it. When I no longer can do the work of the minister, the congregation stops supporting me. Then I am left to myself.
Come on.
Then I am left to my children. So do I want to encourage my children to be preachers, knowing that they may not even be able to support me, seeing that I know I wasn't able to do much for my family? Should I encourage them to go into preaching? Because when I'm 70 and old and gray, I am dependent upon my children. Right. And if they're in the same position that I used to be, then they say, crap will smoke my pipe. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. Yes, sir. So listen, there's work that needs to be done where the church is concerned. Preachers have concerns, they've got fears. You have a lot of challenges in the areas of finance, and it's tough to even begin to touch upon them. But just know that this is not a glamorous lifestyle, being a preacher. Yeah. To say the least, we getting by. I mean, even when at the most, how would I say it? When I was supported the best I was in my period as a preacher, it was pretty much just enough to pay the bills. And talking about savings account, insurance, these things are almost non-existent for most preachers. We can develop a savings account and support afford insurance and Caribbean preachers mainly. I am aware that a lot of the congregations in the US are starting to do that, and other the bigger countries, they're starting to put those plans into place, retirement plans for preachers and so on. And I only pray to God that within my lifetime, before I get to that old age, that congregations can grow to where they can take care of their preachers and appreciate their ministers because of all that ministers do, you know. A lot is expected, brother, but it's not always given in return where preachers are concerned. We are expected to do so much, expected to attend every meeting, prepare excellent sermons, weddings, funerals, members visitations, community visitations, hospitals, possibly prisons, other involvements in community, and all of that is expected plus more. And to do it without the proper resources, starting with finance and support system, and all on our own sometimes. It's quite a very challenging and demanding task and position for preachers to be in.
And talking about you know, all the things that you are required to do, and especially in a position where you don't have the elders, you don't have deacons, it's just the preacher man. You know, thinking about all of the things that he has to do. Brother Wendell started touching on that, you know, the health issue. I want to get back to that now. You know, the health situations that preachers sometimes find themselves in. What about depression? You know, has any one of you suffered with depression during your time preaching?
San Fernando Hill is where I would find myself so as to not lose my mind, because of the mere fact that you have to deal with financial issues, internal family issues, church issues, the personal issues, the community issues. It's a whole lot of things, right? And if you don't take that time out for yourself, you could become insane. And that's the reason I learned from Jesus. Jesus, even though his portfolio and his mission would have been preaching and helping others, the scripture tells you that Jesus would depart to a mountain by himself. He wants to just get some time for himself, even though the people would still throng and follow him. It's important for preachers to get that time for themselves, to be able to revitalize, to be able to get your energy going again, to be able even to relax sometimes. You know, Brother Dillion mentioned about these fictitious characters, about Superman and Batman and all of these things. I think we share something in common. I love to watch these Justice League cartoons and all of those things. I love to watch that. And the reason why it's always a battle between good and evil. And good always wins. No matter how evil things may turn out, good always wins. Right. So as a preacher, I look at myself and I say, listen, we have all these battles to face. And instead of you losing your mind, there must be a space, a time for you to say, hey, God and I must be there alone together. And hear what? When you spend time with God alone, you feel so refreshed. So I don't know how to explain it to you. Because hear what? You know, I don't know if they will probably experience this as well. And I'm here, I know members will be listening to what I'm saying. When members are sick, you know, it is expected that the preacher will try to help as much as they can. Visit the member as much as they can. When preachers are sick, hardly would you have a member visiting a preacher when preachers are sick. Hardly would you have members coming directly to your home when preachers are sick. You don't understand what I'm saying? There's a difference, you know, because there's an expectation, whereas if something happened to the members, you as the preacher have to. But when it is reversed, what happens then? All right? So people have to be aware that we're supposed to be working together, not necessarily because you are the preacher, there's a big gap between the preacher and the member. Jesus often, when he communicated with people, he was in touch with them and the people was in touch with him. That's why he says they were like sheep. You know, they were scattered and he had compassion on them. So when Jesus gives and shows such compassion, in return, you will see those things coming back.
Right.
But it don't usually or often happen. Let me say it don't often happen. I've heard sometime in the States, I don't know if it happened in the Caribbean as much, but Dylan can tell me as well, where there's a day for preachers, where preachers acknowledge perhaps one day in the year, hey, we are
Right.
thankful to this preacher, and the congregation will bring fruits and vegetables and all kinds of gifts to the preacher and the family because
Nice.
they recognize. But hear what? That is just one day in the
Nice.
year.
Nice.
You know, it's just one day in the year.
Good.
But that
Good.
might just be enough for the preacher to say, oh, you know, maybe somebody's looking, maybe
I'm
somebody's paying
appreciated.
attention, maybe
Yeah.
somebody's doing this sort of thing. Yeah, just that one moment, you know, it says a lot. All right. And so yes, we do have a lot of things that really puts us in certain position. And speaking from that standpoint of a preacher, we don't mind. I see, we don't mind going through the trials. We don't mind going through the afflictions in the name of God. We don't mind, right? But the main thing is the congregation must realize, hey, this is your preacher. This is the minister of God. This is the one who have dedicated his entire life. He's not doing anything else other than this. Let's make sure that he is taken care of. Let's make sure his family is taken care of. Before I go over to Brother Dillion mentioned one more point. He said, what happens when Brother Dillion gets of age? What happens next? But I want to go far. What happens when Brother Dillion dies? What happens when Brother Wendell dies? What happens to the family now?
Come on. Come
You know,
on.
what would the
You're
church
talking.
do? What would the church do in regards to the family? Spend all these years teaching, preaching, supporting. What would you do with the family? Would the family now be put out on the breadline just like that and say, okay, all the fend for yourself? No, why? Because preachers are replaceable. One die, another comes. Preachers are replaceable. All right. So with that now, I want to talk about something else, but I'll leave it alone a little bit to say what Brother Dylan will have to say
Right.
further
Right.
on this.
Yeah, well, we smile. We try to dress the best we can, and we present ourselves the best way we can present ourselves. And people take that to think that everything is always okay,
Right.
you know. But it's not. You know, we have the challenges, we have the obstacles. But you know, as Brother Wendell was saying, when we try to build our closeness with God and our relationship with God, this keeps us sane for the most part, you know, because we are constantly we need to keep that relationship with God. We need to dig into the Word of God, and that sort of keeps us level. And couple that with the love for the work of God and working for God, there's a joy in there that very few professions can afford you to have. You know, to know that you just to save one soul, to know that you're helping people get to heaven. That sometimes outweighs everything that you're going through, that you're suffering with, because when you know that at the end it will be worth it.
Right.
But we should not mistake that to think that everything is always nice and dandy. Oftentimes it's not. It's a constant battle and struggling where preachers are concerned. Sometimes I am concerned that sometimes we are dealing with a certain reduced empathy towards preachers within the church community.
Right.
Members sometimes have the type of attitude that say, but you the preacher, we support you, so you should be doing that. You should not be complaining. You should have no problems. That's a reduced empathy. Because, I mean, we are just people. We are people doing what we can for God. And we should actually be in the company of other people who are doing the same. You don't need to be a preacher for you to have the attitude that says, yes, what? I want to do all I can for God when I can. And if more members would have that attitude, then preachers may not have all of that stress that they go through, because for example, there would be shared labor, you know, where people would be contributing, even if only in the area of lesson preparation, not preparation, but presentation. The scripture says, for example, when at times you are supposed to be teachers, you have need for some to come and teach you like babes, you know. So that's one aspect of it. So I said earlier that as preachers, we generally have the mentality and the mindset We want to do our best. And so with that comes the overwhelming feeling of concern and sometimes despair, because you see where the church is, you know where you want it to go in the direction. You see the membership, you see the good and the bad, and the bad troubles you. You sometimes get negativity coming your way when you're only trying to do what God asks you to do.
Right.
And you try to balance all of that, and it keeps you up at night. Preachers struggle with insomnia, a lack of sleep, sometimes based on just having to prepare lessons. Sometimes it's just you thinking, what can I do? What am I not doing? What should I do? You are saying, Lord, why me? Why do you still need me? Get somebody else. I have done enough. It's just so much that really boils within that pot. But when the members see you, all they see is your smile. You have to be the one to encourage even when you are discouraged. You're expected to be the one to strengthen when you sometimes are the one who needs the strength. Sometimes there are times when you might be the weakest in your life or within the brotherhood, but you are still expected to be the one to lift people up with the word of God, and sometimes by your phone calls and Brother Wendell said it right. You know, you're expected to call, you're expected to reach out, but very, very few persons do that in the direction of the preacher. We don't get calls. We don't get people calling us, except unless members. Listen, you may be a preacher, and you may be a preacher over a congregation of 80, but not all of them may necessarily treat you as friends. And I don't mean they are not friends, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying like friends do treat friends in the sense that, let me check up on a friend and see how he or she are doing.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily treat the preacher in that way. He is the preacher. He is set apart. You don't need the attention. You could call somebody else, man. You don't need the time. He's always motivated. He's always encouraged. He's always in good spirits. That's sort of the way the preacher is treated. And that's just not the case. That's not the reality of the matter from a preacher's perspective, which is what I'm giving you. And it's not a complaint, because we understand that the work of a preacher is a difficult task. You have to, if you're going to come into preaching, you must know that. And it's a hostile environment being a preacher in the world that we live in. The world does not love Christians, far less preachers.
Oh, yes.
So you're going to you're taking up a responsibility that's difficult, it's challenging, it has lots of obstacles, and you're going to try to do your best despite all of that. But it's good when members understand and see things from the perspective of a preacher, and hopefully it helps them to develop the type of empathy and to show sympathy, and to, more importantly, give the type of support that preachers would need that will allow them to go further and to do more for the church where the work of God is concerned. And I'm saying all of that because I am getting ready to leave. I need to drive the family to school and to work, So thank you, Brother Leo, for the time.
Yeah, I know. As I said, talks like these will go on and on and on. And we just want to take the time to say we appreciate you, Brother Dillion, for joining us. Thank you so much for sticking around and for sharing your experiences and some of the stuff that you would have gone through. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, brother, for the opportunity to share from the preacher's perspective. Maybe we can do that again sometime.
Brother Wendell, you have something to say to Dillion?
Yes, I am encouraged because I didn't know who was going to come on with me this morning. I know there's a batch of preachers, but I'm encouraged hearing Brother Dillion, seeing Brother Dillion, and I just want to encourage him from one preacher to the next. Let's continue to hold on regardless of what, and may God be praised in what we are seeking to do. May his church be edified, and may your family just be blessed, Brother Dillion. So continue to do a wonderful job that you do.
Thank you very much, brother. It was wonderful seeing you as well, man. God bless you and your family likewise.
Take care.
Amen,
Have a good day, bro.
Goodbye, Label family.
Bye-bye. All right, let's take this call. A pleasant good morning. You're live on Label. How are you doing this morning?
Pleasant good morning. I'm just watching to the to the program about the preachers.
Right.
You know, and my thing is, after being in the church so long, my thing is, we were not taught that way. When the church has now started and missionary have came, all preachers were helping themselves, working. So I guess we were not taught, as they were saying, that we don't have no deacons and no elders.
Right.
We were not taught. So we just take it for granted. Okay, the preacher's working and it's okay.
Right.
So, you know, preachers will be doing the secretary work and then they will come back and preach.
Right.
So there was no need to put those things into place.
Right.
But now I guess as we're growing older and the church is getting big and things change, we need to get together, not just this forum. Men and we need to get together and bring this together.
Right.
You know, I like this program, but sometimes personally to me, I find not all my clothes, as they would say, my dirty clothes should be outside there.
Right.
So I am a kind of privacy person.
Right. Right.
So I will like brethren, the men could get together because this is good.
Yeah.
I support it. I really support it because, you know, we see other people, other denominations, we see how they help the priests and help the priests. We know this is not a whole biblical thing they do to some sort. But at the end of the day, we are humans. And as you say, Brother Wendell was saying, when we're sick, how do they go to the doctor? We had to go through a whole, you know, it's a whole list of things. This is, it's bigger than where we just talking the little topic, little thing, little package thing. It is real big. And I really enjoy this topic because I always think about it. What will they do? What are they doing? After listening to me with all my complaints, who are they going to complain to?
Yeah.
The wife? No, they can't tell the wife my business. So, you know, it's a lot of problems. So I thank God for the brethren. I thank you for bringing it out. But we need more. We need to do much more. We need to do much, much more.
Thank
you know, so Brother Leo, thank you very much, and thanks for the program, especially this one. I enjoy this morning one because this is my thing. So you have a blessed day. God be with you all.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
You know, Brother Leo, the caller made a very interesting points that we didn't even have the time to touch on, but it was so important for them to recognize education.
Right.
Education. What you have been taught concerning preachers. And I think the education that was imparted then, we can see now why preachers do go through a lot of things.
Right.
Because we have the same problem when it comes to elders. Education. If we were taught about elders and deacons to the point where we understand how critical that role is, you wouldn't have to wait so long.
That's right.
Just to have elders in the church.
That's right.
So education is important. And the fact that preachers sometimes go through these things and having to learn the hard way about life. You have men who are sticking it out. You have men who are saying to themselves, doesn't matter, we're still there, we're still doing as much as we can. Because if all these preachers were to give up, really and truly, then what will happen? What will happen? All right? So, yes, even from the Old Testament examples, God showed how the Levites were being supported by the members. They didn't have to worry about nothing.
Right.
They were supported to the point where there wasn't a secular job. Their job basically was the office, the ministering in the tabernacle. They had to worry about nothing. Their families were taken care of. You don't have to go and buy. In other words, they were so well sought out and taken care of that Paul the Apostle in 1 Corinthians 9 said, listen, if you look at the example of how the Levites were supported, he says today, preachers also need supported like that.
Yes.
To the point where if that's what they choose to do and they have a love for it, even so had the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel.
Yes.
All right? So all
Yes.
that is there for us to see and understand.
Talk to me a little bit about issues that people face. Now, people would have so much things dealing with, and you know, the preachers automatically, they're not just pulpit ministers, they are now mediators and counselors, and they have a lot of issues to deal with. So they have to sit and listen to people and their problems, and no, they can't take these problems and talk to anybody about it. They have to be the people are confiding in them, so you have to hold that to yourself, and you have to deal with your problems, and also you have to deal with other people's problems. That could be a hell of a load to carry. How do you cope with things like that?
Well, I look at it this way. A preacher have to learn to balance three things. One is family life, which would include himself to a certain extent.
Right.
Two, the ministry to which he's involved in. And when I say ministry, I'm talking about the work that he does in the community. And three, the work that he does in the church or among church members. He had to learn to balance that. For the mere fact that there are some issues that become overwhelming than others. There might be some family issues. And I'm going to give you a practical example. If it is that
could we stick a pin on that there? And let's take this call here. We'll get back to this.
No problem.
A pleasant good morning. You're live on Labor with Leo. How are you doing this morning?
Hi, good morning, Leon. Good morning to the Labour family.
All right.
Good morning, Brother Parris.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right.
I'm really happy to hear this discussion going on this morning, because I am one of them who are advocate for the church to be behind the preachers and help them, because it is not an easy work. Just the preparation alone is difficult. You have to be up, you have to make sure you're well researched, because when you're presenting the word of God, you have to make sure it is presented in all its purity.
Yeah.
And to prepare the work, it takes a lot of time. And the church can recognize ways in which they can help the preacher. If it is that we have to help them to do a course, and we help them to pay for that. So that.
Hello?
I think got cut off there.
Yeah, we get another connection issue. Yeah.
All right, and could I just piggyback on what she said?
Yeah.
This is so important that in order to find that balance, and she said it right, preachers also need to educate themselves.
Right.
So you have areas where you could learn more about family counseling, how to interact with people, how to communicate different courses that preachers can do to enhance their ministry.
Right.
And yes, it is good if the church could really send preachers to do this sort of thing and pay for those courses, etc. Because when it comes to media, radio and television, the church had supported me in that regard.
Right.
The radio and television, right? And Brother Mahes and myself were the two persons who went into that particular course that we did. And as a result, we were involved in TV and radio ministry for a number of years, because the church saw it fit that we have men trained in that area to do that very same thing.
That's right.
How was that extended? The Trainer School of Preaching recognized what we have done, and they said, listen, Brother Wendell, come and help also doing a course that will help with TV and radio ministry. So it is extended, right? Leo, you were part of the class, right? It was extended.
Was I part of the first class you taught that?
You were there. I remember you were preparing to do some media lessons, and you had to do the training in the library of how we could remember those days.
And I was a flop. I was the flop in the class, eh?
Well, I wouldn't go in detail. We can't have all the dirty laundry outside, right? But look at where you are, Leo. You have the label program. You're doing something wonderful, excellent. And if you look back over the years, perhaps you never would have thought this is where you would end up.
Right. True.
But because God has a plan, because God works his will in us and he does what he does, a lot of people are involved in where you have to be. A lot of people are involved in where I have to be. A lot of people are involved. So I'm thankful for the church and everyone who have their part to play in where we are right now. We have another call?
No, you could go right ahead.
All right. So in the area of, I was talking about learning to balance. Sometimes family issues are overwhelming than the issues we're dealing with members of the church. and people in the community. So you have to attend to those issues. You
Yeah.
can't leave it alone.
Yeah.
And then sometimes there are issues in the church that are overwhelming that needs to be dealt with, so that your family now will have to wait until this issue
Right.
is worked out. And when I say wait, meaning that if your family is well, they're okay, they're doing fine, good, then they have another issue to deal with in the church. And something comes up in the community, whereas some, like for example, due to the violence that we have happening in our land, some woman's son was shot or killed, and they know that you are preaching in the area, and guess what they do? They want to find out, could you come home and counsel us? Could you come home and help us at a time such as this? Or sometimes you are home and in the evening somebody calls you. They're thinking about committing suicide, and you have to walk them through keeping themselves alive and all of these things. And so the job of a preacher is not 8 hours.
Right.
It's not 12 hours.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
24/7.
Talk.
All right.
Talk.
We talk about essential workers,
Talk.
doctors and nurses, how they are on call. Let me tell you something. Preachers are on call all the time.
Talk.
All the time. And therefore, we are not looking for extra handouts or compensation for what we do. We love what we do. Just help us to do what we do, provide the resources, so that we'll have the resources available to us when we need to do certain things, and therefore it will help make what we do a little bit more better and able to reach out to people, and they'll be able to understand that what we do is not that we are gods, but we are here as servants of God, doing all that we can to make sure that they are comforted. All right.
Wow.
It's not an easy job, but it may sound as if, Brother Dillion mentioned it sounds as if sometimes preachers are complaining. No, preachers are not complaining. We don't have a voice. You know, in the workplace, Brother Leon, you have unions. You have the PSA, and you have all of these different unions. They speak for and on behalf of the people. Who do we have?
Let's take this call. We have. Well, pleasant good morning. You're live on Labor with Leo. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I am not going to be long.
Oh, thank you.
But it is such good morning.
Good morning.
Brother Wendell. Listening to the program, it is so heart-rendering to hear what is being said.
Right.
And it needed to be said so that we can know the depth of what is really going on. Because most people, I was saying people, and Diana said some people, but it's more than some, are not really aware, or not even, they're so bogged down with their own life that they really don't have their focus on others around, because life is so hard. And I talk about this all the time, about the love that we should have for each other. We should think about these things, really. You know, like some of the sisters, I think a sister called in and said that. You think about this, you think about, you know, this preacher and this person who's laboring with you all the time. And it's like, I wonder, you know, how he's doing, or, you know, this is how we do with well, in my congregation, the minister now is sick, and I cook, they like curry. So I cook curry and take for them. He likes ice cream. If I see it on sale, I buy it, I take it. Other people do, they send money and all of that to him, because he's been with us for a while. And now that he's older and he's sick, you know, we think about it, because this is our brother in Christ. And this is how, even if I sit come in on Sunday and I don't see someone, I'm like, I wonder where this person is. You'll call, you know, the person is like, you're okay, I didn't see you Sunday. This is the kind of love and care and concern we should have about each other. We should not be having, you know, be taught to give. You know, when we were given Christ, God gave us Christ, which is all in all. We should be thinking about the benefits that we are reaping here as Christians. And we should, because of that, we should want to give, you know? And we should be thinking about the preacher, his wife, his children. I had driven into, I was dropped off at a congregation in Trinidad one time. And when I dropped off, someone pulled in their car, and she was fussing that the minister's car was in a spot where it shouldn't have been. And that bothered me. I walked in, I went through the service, and after the service, I went to her and I told her, you know, this is what we should be thinking about, you know, this is He should be able to park anywhere. You should be thinking about his wife. How is she doing? Call, sister, so you're all right? This is a concern that we should have for each other. This shouldn't be taught. It's a heart thing. It is a consciousness of being thankful for what God has done for us.
Amen.
All right, Brother Wendell, I really feel a way for you guys, and now that it's good for us to hear it, so that we would know it should prick our hearts and we should do much better. Okay, have a good day. Lots of love.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Love you. Bye-bye. All right.
Amen.
Amen. Great
Definitely.
stuff. Great stuff.
I believe, I believe the congregation where I'm at right now, Laramie, they have the leadership. They have a good vision. They look out for you because they realize a lot of things that could be done was not done, and they're looking forward to do greater things.
Right.
And I'm thankful for all that they have done thus far and what they are continuing to do in support of myself and my family. There are areas in which still need improvement. I would say, yes, there are areas. But as we go along, we learn a lot of things as we go along. All right.
Let's take another call here.
With all of these things, all right.
Let's take another call. A pleasant good morning. You're live on Label with Leo. How are you doing this morning? Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. What do you got for us this morning?
Yeah, it was a great program this morning. I remember the church having a session a couple of years ago with the preachers and the preachers' wives.
Right.
And there was no dry eye, because it was really an opening experience to see what preachers and their wives and their families go through. So I'm glad that we bought this forum, because a lot of people don't know what goes on with preachers, their wives, their families. And one of the things that went on in that forum is that a lot of the wives, or even the children, they said that they won't become preachers because of how they see that their father being supported as a preacher and what they see the wives are going through.
Wow.
One brother from the States said, he worked with a congregation that didn't have elders and deacons before, and he works with a congregation that now has elders and deacons. And he said that he will never go back to a congregation that doesn't have elders and deacons.
Wow.
Because he said before, in that congregation, he was the chief cook and bottle washer. Everything, because he's a preacher, whether child sick, babysitting, he had to do everything.
Yeah.
And of course, that would burn out the preacher.
Yes.
And not only that, he wouldn't have time to bring a proper message to the congregation.
Yes.
And then when as somebody said, when he bring a half-cooked duck, they'll say, well, but we heard this message before.
Yeah.
So the thing is, the preacher needs also time to be able to study the Word of God effectively, to be able to bring across a message to the congregation. So I believe that there are a lot of pre-misconceptions about the preacher and what the preacher does. And I believe that part of the problem is how the church, well, especially in Trinidad, how the church started with missionaries. We didn't need to support them because they already supported from their home congregation. So really, we didn't really need to give them much money because they already had that support. And I believe we go up with that mindset that, well, hey, the preacher here already supported. We really don't need to give him much. Once he have a love for God, well, that's enough. But really, we've learned that is not enough. They have families, they have children, they go through problems and finances just like we do.
Yes.
And unfair for us to be able to not give the man of God the adequate support that he can be able to be comfortable to take care of his family at least and himself. So I believe it's something that we need urgently in the church, because I believe that it is something that is indeed lacking. And I believe that forums like these, Brother Stefan Asrali, I believe he started the last time, that when he was going through these issues, he had nobody to turn to.
Wow.
And a lot of preachers go through issues, and we are there encouraging the congregation, but when we need encouragement, who do we turn to for encouragement?
Right.
So I believe that those are some issues that we that we have highlighted, and I believe that it's something that we need to work on in order to address, to be able to make the church a better place, to be able to make sure that the man of God is adequately taken care of and his family is adequately supported, and that not only that people can recognize that, hey, that preaching is something that I can go into because it's something that is good. And I've seen in the States where a lot of preachers now are, well, at least better supported here than in Trinidad. I see them, some driving Mercedes Benz, or I mean, etc. But the thing is, what I'm saying is they make sure that their family needs are adequately supported, and they are adequately supported, that they can be able to spend time now in the Word and be able to uplift and build up the congregation. Amen. And I believe that we need to also look at that as well.
Amen.
That's my contribution for this morning.
Thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
All right, you tell Brother Wendell I said also. That's right.
If I may say, yes, sir. Good hearing you, brother. The brother touched on something that I know my son. Some people might say, well, my son, he might want to follow in my footsteps, but he have seen, as well as my children, they have seen what happened over the years with their father involved in ministry.
All right, let's
that's not an area that I know.
Let's take another pin on
the. I know for sure.
Yeah, no. Let's take another pin on that family issue. We get right back to that. Let's take another call. A pleasant good morning. You're live on Label with Leo. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, good morning, Leo. This is Kevin Frederick here. Wonderful program, man.
Hey, what's happening, Kevin?
Wonderful and timely program. Yesterday we were talking about the youth.
Right.
And, listening to this program, sometimes we don't take into consideration the children of preachers as well.
Right.
And children of preachers are under severe and immense scrutiny, right? And that in itself is peer pressure. That in itself could make the children of preachers go the wrong way, right? So they are under immense pressure, and sometimes they and all don't get the support, right? Because they may have the absence of a youth ministry, and a youth ministry is very important. And sometimes preachers have to get involved in being in the youth ministry or running the youth ministry when they have all that other work to do, preaching and teaching the word, right? So sometimes, as Ian was saying, they need the assistance and other persons who call in. The preachers need the assistance in the absence of deacons and elders. So this is saying this is where the men have to step up. This is where the men have to assist the preacher, so the preacher do not have that workload on his shoulder, because his children, because they are preachers' children, they are under immense scrutiny, not just from members of the body of Christ, but also from the world itself.
Lovely. Really appreciate it, Kevin. Really appreciate it. Yeah. So he was I know you're now talking about your son, and these are important factors. You could continue on that path, because I know this is an important point.
No, but as I said, my children would have seen what happened over the years as they grew with the ministry, with the church, and all of that. Because there's sometimes in my growth process as a minister, I have neglected to my family, because I keep pushing in the mail that, hey, the church, and you would neglect your family to that point, because you so want to be able to let people know, hey, I'm here, I'm your minister, whatsoever. Here's the family now being pushed aside, and they would see things like that, and they would say, hey, you see that? I don't want to get involved in that, because they see, number one, what I would have been doing, and they saw what the church have been doing, and altogether we're saying to ourselves, well, why is this happening? Is this the actual life of a preacher? If I knew this was going to happen, would I still walk in this path, do the same thing all over again? And quite frankly, I would do some things differently. But at the same time, I want to try to understand and to help congregations today. Hey, if we have to do things in the future to help preachers, let me start doing things the way really God intended.
Right.
And regardless of the persecutions and the trials, at least, let the family of God, from whom the minister comes, to be taken care of to the point where we could work together. It's a working relationship between preachers and members. Have to be a working relationship. So a preacher doesn't stand up and promote, hey, you need to give me money more or whatever. He don't have to do that. it'll be understood. It will be understood. As I said, preachers don't have unions, but they have members of the church who identify their labor, who understand what they do, and because of that, they say, yes, I'm willing to do this. And sometimes you don't have to wait till the end of the month when you have a support coming in. You know, drop a basket of fruits for them or something. Do something. You know, during the week, during the you don't have to wait. And things like that happens. Things like that could really be a big help to ministers. They will know. By these things they will know.
Let's take another call here.
So a balance of.
All right, the call just dropped. All right, yep. So you're talking about a balance here, and you're correct. A balance has to be struck when it comes to preachers and the work. Let's take this call. Yeah, pleasant good morning to you.
It's not another call, it's a continuation of my call. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about the strength that the preachers show, or strong people show.
Right.
And others look on and don't see that there's a weakness in that person.
Right.
And what you do, you end up leaning on that person because of the strength that they have and they show, and you are not even thinking that they're weak. You know? So looking at hearing Brother Wendell and, you know, and the other preacher, and seeing the love that they have, and they would do whatever it is to stand up for themselves, for their family, like a pillar, you know? Other people are not seeing that they're weak. They're not seeing their weakness. They're not seeing them as men, you know, with needs, you know, of their own.
Yeah.
So I think that's also, you know, it's good here because now we see that it exists,
Lovely.
you know,
Lovely.
and yeah, you can have that empathy for that person.
Lovely. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the continuation. Thank you so much for the continuation. Wow. I think we have another call here. All right, no, just dropped. All right, yeah. Well, as we boil down to our close, Brother Wendell, you know, I just want to say I really thank you so much. Let's take a call here quickly. A pleasant good morning. You're live on Label. How are you doing this morning?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm doing great. What do you got for us this morning?
Okay. I would just like to compliment and congratulate both speakers, Wendell and Dillion. Well, I know Brother Dillion in Dominica. He's one of the exceptional preachers. He's very, very, very good and very genuine. He's one of those preachers who, when he preaches his own sermon, would ask you to pray for him. And he will cry at times, genuinely. You know, he's one of those honest ones that I've seen so far. You know, some preachers who preach the word and say, I am sending it to you, and I'm telling you this morning, he would say, I am encouraging us today that we should be better.
Amen.
However, they have been good, both of them. What I would like to say, we are having this discussion here today, but what can we do? How far will it go? How many people are hearing it?
Right.
Will we be taking it to the church? Because we are discussing at Label, in Label program. So many things are being done here, and it's only those of us maybe that are listening to Label that will get the message. So I hope that this message will get into the Church of Christ, because honestly speaking, I think we are really lacking when it comes to giving in the church.
Yeah.
You ask, how are you doing today? Oh, things are bad. They never ever have money. And I think God has been good, and then we should be, if we are Christians, we should be not doing bad. We should be doing okay and very better than others that we could give genuinely.
Right.
So I would like to thank you too for this message and continue to do a good job here.
Right.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. God bless. Bye bye.
Yeah. Welcome. All right.
If I could say something here. There are preachers that I know. I mean, dedicated preachers, faithful men who started off in ministry of preaching.
Right.
And when difficult times come, there are those who left preaching, not because they wanted to. It's just
True.
that kind of support, morally, financially, otherwise, it was not there.
True.
And even though they could have made lots more money on the outside, than what they were receiving. They didn't want to leave, but because those who were family oriented, they had to make a choice. And in making the choice, they left and they got involved in the secular job. They're able to support their family, but in their hearts, their heart is still in wanting to minister and to preach the word of God. So sometimes people have to make some decisions that are heartbreaking because of these issues that they face. And it's not that he wants to go out there and make a set of money and be rich. No, he had to make a decision, right, in support of his family. If it's not coming one way, then he has to do something else.
Yeah.
Other than that, there are those who will really stick it out regardless of what. They will just go down to the wire and they still have a smile on the face, as Brother Dillion says. And it's not that we have to be outspoken. I think it is understood that once you're involved in a ministry such as this, we need all the support that we can get. It is understood.
Yeah.
Right? And yes, I agree, because sometimes it brings tears to your eyes. It does. We don't sometimes do it before people, but we do. It's heartbreaking. Sometimes you question whether or not you're able to continue in the same vein. But God is good, and there's a reason why you're there. And there are some members who will encourage me and say, listen, God didn't have you in this position if he didn't know what he wants you to do for him. So you have to always, rely on that kind of support and motivation from members. Otherwise, you just walk away. And that's what the devil wants everybody to do who comes this line. Just walk away.
True.
Right?
Let's take
But
another
we
call
are not
here.
going to walk away.
Let's take another
Yes,
call
sir.
here quickly. A pleasant good morning. You're live on Labor with Leo. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, Leo. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. What's happening, man?
I'm good. Brother Wendell, nice seeing you and hearing you all this morning. I like this discussion. And perhaps it is a situation really where we having an issue somewhere along the line, but esteeming each other higher than the other, right?
Yeah.
That's the biblical thing. When we look at it from a more secular point of view,
right?
The most important resource, right? And I face it where I work, and I know a lot of people face it where they work, is seen as the buildings we have, the money we have in the bank, the pulpit, the chairs, the songbooks that we have. All the physical assets are seen as the assets of the church rather than the persons that are within the organization. Right? We are the Church of Christ. Right? We. That is why it's called the Church of Christ, because we are the church. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
We are the most important resource. From within that pool of important resource are some rules that are important for us to function, which are the preachers, ministers, the elders, deacons, all the things that we're supposed to have. But we need to understand and remember that these people are the most important resource within any organization. And without these resources, the organization will not grow. If it is maybe we see it from that point of view, maybe we can understand that we are starving our resources and thereby destroying our future. Because if it is that we are not taking care of the people that are supposed to be taking care of us, we do not see them as important, how then are we going to